Is everyone ready? All right, so let's share some of them. So who wants to share?
So, so like long-term goals, like we had pretty much like busting out to having everybody having like a higher GPA. So say like honestly we want that 4.0, but
Mm-hmm.
realistically we could only get about like 3.6 or 3.8. Busting down, that's a long-term goal. Weekly task, we were saying, what can we do daily upon the week? So say situating that time management. Monday I have work. Wednesday I get out of class early. I could go ahead and put a few hours into the library, and then later go to the gym,
Good.
and then yeah,
Sounds
pretty
good.
much just a different schedule every day.
Good. So it's basically finding something that works for you as far as time to study. What else? I heard some good ideas. I heard someone saying like a rule of thumb of like 2 to 3 hours a week per credit hour.
Yeah, we talked about just like getting an A in class, and so you would have to go to class every day, and then try to do like an hour every day to study like Monday through Friday.
Good. Very good. Any others? It's okay if you don't want to. So basically what your thing should have looked like is defining the long-term goal. So in this example, make the president's list. Breaking it down, so what would you have to do? Get an A on your exam. And how are you going to do that? So in this case, this person would go to the study group 3 times a week. And that kind of hits what you were saying, like 1 hour a day. So the next thing that we have, and this one I love, how many of you use a planner? Okay, good. Really good. How many of you don't just like write something in it and then never look at it again, but actually use it every day? Really good. I love my planner. If I didn't have it, I don't know what I would do. But basically, I have I have like 2 parts to my planner. It gives me like a monthly view. It also gives me like the weekly view. And so at the very first week of the semester, I will take all of my syllabuses, and I will go ahead and write in all of my test dates, all of my homework dates, basically anything that's already assigned and has a guaranteed deadline. I put it all in my monthly view. Thank you. And that way, I have it to reference for the entire semester. And so I like to cross the days off too. So it's like as I'm crossing it off, it's like, uh-oh, I have an exam coming up in 2 weeks. I need to start studying for that. And that's whenever you can kind of start like seeing that you need to prepare the time ahead of time and start kind of breaking it down. So why do we use a planner or calendar? Helps to organize it. It's a quick reference guide. So how many of you have been like, oh, when's that test gonna be? And then you have to like wait for the Wi-Fi to connect. And then you go into the web courses, and then finally you can load up the syllabus and you have to scroll through it and finally find it. And it's like not worth your time at that point. Whereas if you just have it all on this one piece of paper, I even use different colored pens for it because I'm a real visual learner. But I'll organize my stuff by color. That way I can just at a glance look at it and go, okay, for this class I have this assignment due, I have this test, and it really makes it a lot easier. Plus it's really satisfying to like cross things off a list. It's just so satisfying. Or if one other thing I'll do is like at work I'll use sticky notes. So anytime I have like a task or something I have to do, I'll put a sticky note on my computer, and as soon as it's done, I take it and I get to crumble it and throw it into the trash can. And that's also satisfying. So the next thing, I didn't print out the handout for this, but I'll tell you how you can access it if you want it. This kind of goes along with using like the weekly part of your planner, or if you're like me, I use a calendar on my phone. There's like Android, there's an Apple calendar, I use Google Calendar. There's so many different calendar apps out there. Schedule your life into these calendars. It makes everything so much easier. And you basically just have to have the mindset or the ability to like stick to it. So if you schedule it, know in your head that you have to be there when you say you're going to be there. You have to study or do what you say you're going to do because your grades depend on it, so to speak. So this schedule kind of centers around the 8-hour workday. It's actually proven that people do best if they are working between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., I believe, somewhere around those times. So trying to get your studying in during those hours rather than like 1 a.m. You get what I mean? Like 12 hours of studying the day before the test. So this schedule kind of helps break that stuff down. And we did say, so classes, 2 to 3 hours per day. I think you already said this, where the norm for college studying is at least 2 hours outside of class for each credit hour you're taking. And then putting in your work schedule. Basically schedule your life. So here's an example. So class, that's the first thing that you should put on there. That's where you have to be at those times every single week. Then, let's say you work at Chili's, schedule your work on there. If your shifts change, it's very easy, like on an online calendar, to just go, okay, well now I work on Wednesday this week instead of Monday. So it's allowing the flexibility, but still you know kind of where you have to be. Scheduling when you have to eat. How many of you have gone through a finals week and realized that you hadn't eaten in an entire day? Thank you. I'm not the only one. Yeah, I've done that before. So make sure you're eating, because if you're stressed for exams, sometimes your stomach won't tell you until your head is really dizzy and you're about to pass out. Scheduling your studying. And so whenever you do this, don't just put study, because what are you going to study? You may sit down at your desk and go, okay, I'm studying. Like, and you may flip through some papers and then go, oh, okay, I guess I'll do this. But if you plan ahead of time, okay, I'm going to go to tutoring at this time. I'm going to go to my professor's office hours. I'm going to go to the math lab. Schedule those specifically in your calendar. That way you know what you're going to do when. You don't have to waste time trying to figure out, okay, well, I guess I could study for this class, but I don't really want to, so I'll do this instead. And be specific, like put in, you're going to review your homework. You're going to, I don't know, just like you see on here, for example, on Monday it says study chapter 12 for the math test. So it's very specific. It's an exact chapter, so you already know what you're going to do. I don't necessarily put the exact thing I'm going to do during those study times on my calendar, but I do have the blocks, and then in my agenda, in my planner, that's where I'll put like my task list for each day. So it's kind of similar. And then you have your fun stuff. So your workout schedule, the football games, chocolate club meeting, if that's a thing. Is that a thing? That'd be really cool. That is a thing? I've heard that. I've always heard about it, but no one's ever invited me to chocolate club. And then you have to schedule in your me time too. So for me, as soon as like I eat dinner, I'm pretty much done for the day, and I have time to play video games, and that's what I like to do for my free time. So just kind of a recap. Successful time management, you have to know what your goals are. So why are you working this hard? Why are you here? Working your butt off at the school, everyone's giving you assignments, you're not sleeping, you feel stressed. Why are you doing all this? You have to have a reason. So you need to determine your priorities with these goals. Anticipate future needs and changes. Be punctual, be timely with it. Sometimes you have to force yourself to study, or sometimes you have to force yourself to do something that you don't want to. So carry out those plans and recognize that you're in control. So you're the one who decides what your future holds now. So if you want to just slack off and not do anything, that's totally your choice. But what are the consequences? You're not going to get the grades you want. So you're in control, but you have to keep your own goals in mind. So remember to prioritize. So knowing that you have an exam tomorrow might take priority over playing video games tonight. I don't know. That's just an example. I might have an exam tomorrow. So how are you going to stick with this stuff? So it's one thing to set up these schedules and to go, okay, that's cool. I made this really pretty calendar. It has a bunch of colors on it. But then you just look at it and you never stick to it. So there are some resources for you guys. You can go to your professors. A lot of the professors, and so we talked about this earlier, they might be really intimidating, But whenever you sit down with them in their office, they're the nicest people ever. And they will happily sit down with you and explain concepts to you. If you're struggling, they will take time out of their day and they will love it that you actually came to their office for help. At least that's how my experience has always been. I've always been really surprised at how willing they are to help. Your academic advisors are there for you. CAPS is another resource. How many of you have heard of CAPS? Okay, so it's counseling and psychological services. So if you're really struggling with anxiety or depression or other things, this is a free resource for you guys to take advantage of, and they can give you all sorts of resources. You also have SARC, so there's tutoring. There's the ACE coaching, so they are like a literal resource center or a priority center. They will force you or like kind of slap you on the wrist if you don't do what you say you're going to do. Friends or family, and the UCF website. So there's a lot of other resources on there. The reason I have this on here is, how many of you have heard of Stark Online? One person, okay. Stark Online is where all of these handouts come from, and there are so many other resources on there too. So if you are interested in different learning skills or different study styles or strategies, there's a bunch of handouts on there too. Or you could schedule a learning skills consultation and you'll have a one-on-one with someone who's trained and they can figure this stuff out for you and give you these tools and strategies. So that's pretty much it for all that I had to go over. Are there any questions? All right, so we have an eval form for you guys to sign before you go. I'll still stick around and you can ask me any questions. If there's a department or a person or any individual who needs to know that you were at this workshop today, make sure that you put that on this form. There's a spot for it on here, so just make sure that you list that out and then we will deal with it on our end. Are there any questions? All right, well, thank you guys for coming. Thank you.